I love Italy, and I bet if you're watching this video, you love Italy too.
Andiamo, forza, forza.
But you probably know that Italy hasn't always been on the right side of history, and in fact, between 1922 and 1943, Italy was under the control of the fascist government of Benito Mussolini. Now, early on into Mussolini's regime, it became pretty clear that he needed to find a way to keep support for his system going into the future. And the best way to do that? Indoctrination. Hi, I'm Dominic Carnavale, and today we're going to be talking about this. So this is Il Libro della Prima Classe, or first year school book. So this would have been a first grade book for kids in Italy in 1936 is when this book is from. Now, bit of a disclaimer, this is not an authentic copy, as you can probably tell. I printed this off the internet, and I got all the pages translated and stuff into English, and I thought today we would just read through it. Now, this isn't a complete book. This book would have been roughly, I want to say 200 pages perhaps. And again, this would have been something they'd have in a classroom that they would read through with their teacher. But sadly, only about 22 pages I was able to track down online, but hey, it's better than nothing. So, without further ado, why don't we just get started? All right. So, I'm just going to read the book and we'll talk about some stuff that needs to be talked about. All right. Mario. Oh, perfect name. Perfect name. Mario is a man from Rome. To Rome. Heroes to Rome. And there's Mario. Remember, keep in mind this is a book for children, so there's never every character has a name even though they don't need it. All right. Cake. Torta, that means cake. To me, mama, to me. To you, to Rita, to everyone. All right. This page right here, you got to keep in mind that as we go along, there's going to be some propaganda stuff, as you would expect. But at the end of the day, this is a school book. This is for teaching children. And this whole page is just teaching them words to start with T. So here's some words in Italian if you're interested. This is roof, canopy, some animals, turtle doves, stuff like that, earthquake, a bunch of random words. I'll level with you. It was very confusing when I was translating it because I had no idea what any of this meant, but that's what it is. And I expect there would have been a page for every other letter of the alphabet, but unfortunately, this is the only one that I could find. All right. My land, I love you. We all love you. Heroes and martyrs, you deserve love. All right, so we got, I presume that's Mario. Uh, Looking at a map of Italy. Probably should have brought up that this would have been 1936. This was the creation of a group called the Balila. The Balila were the black shirts, the fascist militia for children, basically. Like, you probably know about the Hitler Youth. This was basically Hitler Youth in Italy. And in 1936, they created a new version of the Balila, a new chapter, if you will. It was called the Figli della Lupa, or Children of the She-Wolf, and it was for children ages 6 to 8. So first graders would have been included. So when you see the little kid, he's wearing the black shirt uniform. He's got the fez and the cross belts and the shorts. So this would have been one of the first books, kind of laying out some more stuff for the Balila. Here we go. Me, we, us. One hand, many hands. Let's sing a hymn, the hymn to Rome. Rome, Rome, everyone admires you and loves you. Aww. And you can see him throwing up the Roman salute. That's actually where that came from, you know. Everyone nowadays will talk about it like, oh, it's the Nazi salute, the Hitler salute. But yeah, you got that from, it was an ancient Rome, an imperial Roman thing. And Mussolini was the one who appropriated that for his new thing, because he was very big on wanting to, bring back the power, the glory of Rome, the ancient Rome, and obviously that did not that did not go well for him. But that was a big part of their education, was teaching them to do the salute. Many peaks all around, snow, snow everywhere. Hail Mary, we venerate you, oh Mary. Oh, poor mommy, she was so sorry, but now she's helped. Mimo will be fed and won't tremble anymore. So once again, we got children having names, that, even though they're only brought up once. And you can't really see it, but there's a little sign on the door right here, and it says National Maternity and Childhood Organization, and they were formed by these the Balila for Girls, the women of the fascist movement, to help mothers and young children get support, if you will. That's the interesting thing about how history works out is the bad guys aren't always entirely bad, you know? I mean, obviously, like Mussolini's government was horrible, but they did help in some ways. You often hear the expression that Mussolini made the trains run on time. He did do that. So in little ways, it was beneficial, but of course, you can't just hone in on that when also they're beating people up in the streets and they're turning your children into little foot soldiers. A moving port. A ship is coming. It's coming, it's coming. Hooray! They were in Ethiopia. They won, and now they're returning home. Hip hip hooray for you, heroes. All right. So keep in mind, this is 1936, so this is shortly after the war in Ethiopia. So Italy had been trying to take Ethiopia for a while, and it did not go well. If you read up on that, it was a very humiliating failure back in the 1890s. And now Mussolini is like, okay, we're going back. This time we're going to win because now we have airplanes. And that's pretty much how it worked out. And poison gas. That was against the Geneva Convention, but he was like, yeah, I don't care.
Gorlami.
So the Italians do win in Ethiopia because they have a huge technological advantage over their enemy. And it is incorporated into Italian East Africa. And that would have been obviously something that they wanted to focus the kids on, Italian expansion and glory and victory in war. Italy is my homeland. Italy with its high, high mountains, the Alps. The peaks of the Alps bear eternal snow. In Alpino, many Alpini, they live there in the mountains. Italy, your Alpini happily give their lives for you. All right. So, I think we should talk about that. The Alpini are currently a part of the Italian military. They're actually the oldest currently serving, if you will, mountain infantry. And they got their start in 1878, which is a very long time ago. And that wasn't long after the unification of Italy. The Alpini were a key part of the Italian front in World War One. A lot of fighting was taking place in the Alps. It was even called the White War because just as many soldiers were dying of frostbite, avalanches as they were from combat. The Alpini are coming out of this as, brave heroes. They led the charge. They were the first one up the mountain. They were climbing. They were like literally scaling ice walls just to get to the battlefield. They would want the children to be looking up to these guys who are out on the outskirts of the empire, holding the line against any foes that might rise up. Italy is powerful and fearsome. Long live Italy, and long live the king, Vittorio Emanuele III. He is the king of Italy and emperor of Ethiopia. King Vittorio, the Italian people love you so much. All right, so I'm an American, right? And we don't really talk about Italian history in school. Uh, Obviously, you learn the bad guys of World War II. The bad guys of World War II. You got Hitler, you got Mussolini, and you got Hirohito in Japan. But you don't learn about the real way the government of Italy works. So Mussolini was on paper prime minister, all right? Like he corrupted the system to make himself like have all the power. But at the end of the day, he looked up to the king, and that was Vittorio Emanuele. You kind of just assume that like Mussolini is basically just Hitler, but bald and fat. That he is, he's the only one on top. When in reality, he kind of has to obey the monarchy. But since he was so powerful, and King Vittorio was kind of a weak ruler, he kind of made himself the only one in charge, and the king was just essentially just a figurehead at that point. This is my favorite part. It's after 7. The sun rises. Up to work. Everyone's going to work. Mussolini said so. Saverio's uniform is ready. Mama has worked hard, and Saverio promised to always be careful and tidy. Now Saverio is in uniform, and all serious, goes to his grandfather. Grandpa, do I look like a true soldier of Mussolini? For Mussolini, hip hip hooray. Now, obviously you can tell, they're trying to get the kids to be like, think about themselves as little soldiers. But a really funny part is you can't really see it in the picture, but some of the words were scribbled out. So the words for like uniform and soldier of Mussolini were replaced with suit and then like businessman. And I don't really know why they did that. I don't know if this was done post-war, but it'd be weird if it was done post-war because they left the bottom part where it's like for Mussolini, like, hip hip hooray. So if anybody has any information about why they did that, please let me know. Because yeah, I honestly can't really figure out unless this was like a kid's and he wanted to make it more like his father was a businessman or something. All right, we're back to the royal family. So, Italy and Savoy. They are our sovereigns. Vittorio Emanuele III and Elena of Savoy are the sovereigns of Italy. Come on, everyone, stand at attention. Let's salute them in the Roman style. Long live the soldier king, the victorious king, thrice victorious, and long live Elena of Savoy. All right, so you notice that thing, soldier king. So during World War One, King Vittorio visited the front line a lot. There are a lot of pictures out there of him like surveying the front with the generals, and that was a huge morale booster for the troops. And they started calling him the Soldier King because he would wear the infantry uniform and he would visit the soldiers on the front. And he visited other front lines too. He went to Verdun in France and stuff like that. Now, Elena was his wife, and funny story about the two of them. Vittorio was only 5 feet tall, exactly 5 feet tall. And even back then, average height was shorter than it is now. But even then, he was short. Like, he was always the shortest one in the room. And that was partially because his parents were cousins. He had some defects as a child, and he had to wear leg braces. The problem with those leg braces was it stunted his growth. And so he ended up being just 5 feet tall. And obviously his mother was pretty worried. She didn't want him to have midget kids. So she's like, okay, who do we marry him off to? I don't know, the freaking tallest princess in Europe. And that was Elena of Montenegro. She was 5'11" and basically a foot taller than him. Here we go. Beautiful flag, holy flag, you are the symbol of my homeland. Soldiers do not abandon the flag, even if they are about to die. Now, I can think of a bunch of instances where the soldiers didn't follow those instructions, because a lot of Italian flags got captured during World War II, and you can find a bunch of great pictures of that. Historically, losing the flag, losing the standard was very shameful. That's why, like, throughout history, you can find photos of the guys holding up the flags that they captured. That's a big deal. Two books. Albina has a beautiful illustrated book. The little girl loves to read it all. It talks about good children, dolls, puppets. Baldo got another book from his father. It talks about our homeland, soldiers, our flag, Benito Mussolini, and the Balilia. Would Albina's book or Baldo's book be better? Alright, so you know what they're implying here, right? Albina's book is all about being a child, innocence and stuff like that, playing with toys, having good manners and stuff. Your typical children's book. Baldo's book is telling them, march, 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 obey, obey. For Italy, you love Italy, yes you do, yes you do. Obviously, they want Baldo to be reading that book and not any silly stuff. In Baldo's book, there's a beautiful view of Abyssinia. And for those of you who don't know, that is Ethiopia. That's the other word for Ethiopia. Um, Baldo observes the very high peaks. It seems impossible to climb up there. And yet, for 7 months, our soldiers fought among the rugged, rugged mountains. They fought, and they won. The Italian soldiers are truly heroes. Now, all of Abyssinia is Italian. Our flag flies high in Addis Ababa. That's the, I don't know if it's the capital, but it's like the big city of Ethiopia. And forgive me if I'm pronouncing this stuff all wrong. Like, I'm a stupid American. I don't know how to say stuff like that. But doing my best. All right, here we go. Benito Mussolini. There he is. There he is. Children loved Benito Mussolini. Benito Mussolini worked and continues to work for the good of the homeland and the Italian people. You have heard it said many times from your father, your mother, your teacher. If Italy is now more powerful than before, we owe it to him. Let us all salute him together. To us. All right, let's keep going. Balilia. Have you heard the story of Balilia? I'll tell it to you. Battista Parasso was nicknamed Balilia. Balilia loved his country very much, but his country was not free. It was ruled by arrogant foreigners. One evening, a foreign soldier insulted and beat the Italian commoners. Balilia happened to be among them, and, filled with rage, threw a stone at the soldier. Everyone then began throwing stones. A terrible battle ensued, the brave Italians won, and the foreign soldiers had to leave. Benito Mussolini. He gave the name Balilia to all the children of Italy. All the children of Italy must be bold and good and love their country like Battista Parasso. Alright, so this is where the name Balilia for the child soldiers. This is where it came from. This was in, I believe it was Verona. Somewhere in one of those northern cities. And remember, Austria is controlling it. And this was like 1746, I believe. and Austria's at war. I believe it was the War of the Austrian Succession. And they're marching through Verona, right? With their cannon. They got field artillery, and it's getting stuck in the mud on the roads. So they start getting the local people, like forcing them to move the cannons out of the mud. Like they're beating them, they're whipping them. And Balila comes along. He picks up a stone, as the book says, and he chucks it at one of the officers. And then he famously said something along the lines of, like, shall I begin? Shall I start? And he started throwing more stones. And the people were like, heck yeah, and they started throwing stones too, and they drove the Austrians out of the city. Mussolini was very keen on corrupting aspects of this Italian culture, history, and pride into his fascist regime so that it could be, used for his own benefit. I don't know if you saw, but I have a picture here I pasted in. These are some Balila. You can see they're pretty young. These are the Figli della Lupa we were talking about. These are the ones who would have been reading this book. Like, yeah, these are just kids. I think it's good to love your country, but there's a certain point where you gotta chill out, Of course, hot take, but all 4 years of my high school life, and since I went to kindergarten, I've been riding the school bus, right? And the middle schoolers on my bus are the most insufferable savages I've ever seen. And I think a well-disciplined youth militia could do them some good, if you ask me. A joyful fanfare. The soldiers pass by. The children are all out to watch. They are the infantry, the brave infantry of Italy. They march in step, proud and smiling. Ahead of them all, a soldier carries a torn flag. Children, salute the flags. Salute the defenders of the fatherland. You too, at 20, will be soldiers, and many of you will be infantrymen. Be proud and happy. The king, the soldier king, wears the infantryman's uniform. Alright, so got some foreshadowing there. They're like, yeah, when you're 20, you're going into the army. They didn't really have a choice. Here's a beautiful color print. The Duce, now Duce means leader, and that was Mussolini's title within the fascist party. And when he became prime minister, he made all the people call him that because he liked it. And it only further solidified the fact that, like, yeah, he's a dictator, The Duce hugs a little Balila and kisses him. The child offers the Duce some beautiful flowers. Duce, you are so good to children, and children love you with all their hearts. You are like a father to them. You make them strong and robust. You make them happy. Long live the Duce of Italy. All right. Now, I got a question. Mussolini, if you're so good with kids, then why did you abandon your son? All right, buddy? Huh? I don't think people talk about this enough. So, when Benito was getting off the ground, he started out as a socialist. You got to remember that. He's the one who comes up with this idea of fascism, but he started out as a socialist. And in 1914, he marries a woman named Ida Dassler. She was Austrian. And Ida Dassler runs a beauty salon. It's pretty popular. She's making a lot of money. And she somehow falls in love with him. And at that time, Mussolini was a hardcore socialist. He's writing for a newspaper called Avanti, which is a socialist newspaper. And like most socialists, he's a broke loser. And partially because at that time, if you're an employer, you don't want to hire somebody who's a rampant socialist writing for socialist newspapers. You don't want that guy in your workplace. Without any money coming in from any work because he's not working, Mussolini's in the hole all the time. And Ida Dassler is the one who's always bailing him out. And she is like financing him constantly. At one point, she even sells her beauty salon just so he can have enough money to, keep going. So in 1914, they get married, and she's still financially supporting him. And how does he repay her? Well, after he gets her pregnant, he goes off and marries his second wife in 1915. Her name was Rachele, and he loved Rachele so much that he went to her mother with a revolver and said, "I'm marrying her or I'll kill her and myself."
Go ahead. Make my day.
So they did get married in 1915. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, how did he marry two women at the same time? Well, in Italy, you have two types of weddings, right? You have a religious wedding before God, and you have a civil wedding, which is before the government, the state. And legally, you had to have both. Like, if you were Catholic, you obviously, you had to do the religious ceremony, but you also have to do one, like, regardless of who you are. You have to do one before the state. Otherwise, there's a loophole where you kind of aren't legally married. I'll level with you. I don't really understand it. But Mussolini married Ida Dassler in a religious ceremony. He marries Rachele in a civil ceremony. So, for a brief couple of months, he's actually married to two women at the same time before divorcing Ida, who's given birth to his son. His name was Benito Albino Dazzler Mussolini. And I wish that was the end of it, but there's more. Mussolini wipes them off the books after he takes power, scrubs their marriage off the record. He has Ida Dazzler thrown into like an asylum. Meanwhile, it's worse for his son, Benito Albino. He's kidnapped at a young age from his mother. They tell him his mother's dead. He's adopted at age 15 by a naval officer, and he goes into the Navy himself. However, he is still pretty adamant that, like, yeah, I am the son of Benito Mussolini. He is my father. And obviously, he's off the record, so they're like, you're crazy. They throw him into a freaking asylum, and they kill him with lethal injections. So, Mussolini, you're good with children, but you were pretty dirty to your own son. Let's keep going. Black shirts. Little black shirts, you are the future of the fatherland. Strong black shirts, you are the defense of the fatherland. All right. So, what they're talking about here is the Milizia Volontaria per la Sicurezza Nazionale, or Voluntary Militia for National Security, the MVSN, which were more commonly called the black shirts because, well, they were wearing black shirts. Now, this was a fascist volunteer militia that was formed to basically like do Mussolini's bidding. Like they would go out and they would go after communist groups in the streets. They would, march. They were the ones who led the 1922 March on Rome, and that was where Mussolini got his power because he was threatening the king into making him prime minister. They start, making the Balilla dress like black shirts, teaching them how to be black shirts, if you will. And here I got some pictures of it. So they had guns. This is a really small version of the Carcano service rifle. So yeah, so teaching the kids how to be little soldiers, shooting rifles, and probably teaching them how to use grenades too. Here we go. Let's keep going. So this is a little song. Again, it's a bunch of random words, so I don't really understand it. But it's ladder, broom, unstitched clothes, school, flies, woods, foam, danger. It probably sounds way better in Italian. Here they are, the little Italians, the swallows of Italy. So this is referring to the piccole Italiane, little Italian girls is what it means. And these were the girl Balilla. The lively group marches by with quick and confident step, and a joyful song fills the air. Go, life. Dear little Italians, life will be truly joyful for you. You are good and strong like your brothers, the Balilla. You will become the true women of Italy, spirited and proud. You promised it to the Duce. A camp. Ginetto went with his dad to see a Balilla camp. What a celebration for the little boy. He wished he were already grown up so he could join the Balilla and live outdoors under tents like the soldiers. It was Sunday, and the Balilla were attending Mass at the camp. Once the Mass was over, the Balilla prayed like this. O good Jesus, protect our homeland. May it always be victorious, great, and powerful. Protect our king, simple and proud, and our Duce, generous and brave, who, with such wisdom and justice, leads Italy. Youth, youth, spring of beauty. Now, fun fact, Mussolini was a raging atheist. His father had been an atheist, but his mother was very Catholic. She baptized him. She would make him go to church every Sunday. And Mussolini freaking hated it. So he ends up like just as atheist as his father had been. Now, the problem is he's taking power in a country that is like 80% Catholic. There is no way he can impose state atheism like he probably always wanted to do. So what they had to do was they had to appeal to the population. So Mussolini starts doing stuff like that. Like he baptizes his kids. He has a second religious marriage with his second wife, Raquel. And, religion is tied into, his literature and stuff like that. In a children's hospital, the little patients experienced great joy today. The queen, the gentle queen of Italy, Elena of Savoy, entered the wide ward. She approached the children, who looked at her with surprise and joy, smiling, and gave them beautiful toys. Our queen is truly kind and generous. She helps the poor, the sick, and shows motherly tenderness to the children. Long live the Queen of Italy. Alright, so, if I'm being honest, this page isn't that bad, because it was known that Elena was extremely charitable. In fact, they're actually working to get her canonized right now, which I kind of hope happens. She was so charitable to the poor that King Vittorio often said that if he wasn't careful with his money, it would all disappear because she kept just donating so much to the people in need. And so, as far as the book goes, that page isn't that bad. A wonderful story. Once upon a time, there lived a king, the good King Numitor. The king's brother, the wicked Amulius, was envious of his power and wanted to be king himself, so he had Numitor thrown into prison. While the poor king languished in prison, two lovely twin boys were born, his grandsons Romulus and Remus. What did the cruel Amulius do then? He ordered them killed immediately. Poor little ones! But Amulius's servant, who was supposed to throw them into the Tiber, didn't have the heart to let them die. He placed them in a basket and left the basket on the riverbank, where the water was shallow. Evening was falling. The children were crying. They were hungry. Look, a she-wolf came down from the mountains to drink from the river. She heard the children's crying and approached. A she-wolf? But wolves are ferocious animals. What would happen to the poor little ones? It was truly strange. The she-wolf looked at them, sniffed them, and did them no harm. On the contrary, she was good and let them suck her milk. Perhaps she had understood that the babies were hungry and looking for their mother. She was a mother too. She did so the next evening and on for many evenings. One day a shepherd passed by. How cute they are, he thought, and he took the twins up with him to his hut. The children grew up strong and courageous. When they grew up, Romulus and Remus chased away the evil Amulias and freed their grandfather Numitor. Then, near the river, near the place where they had been fed by the she-wolf, they wanted to build a city, Rome. Little sons of the she-wolf, look at the golden emblem on your cap. Don't you see? It's the she-wolf who suckled Romulus and Remus. It's the coat of arms of Rome. So that's where the Fili della Lupa, that's where that comes from. It's the wolf that raised Romulus and Remus. Funny, they don't mention what happens next. They don't mention what happened between the brothers afterward, because that's really the best part of the story.
Remus, I'm gonna kill you.
Mussolini is trying to incorporate this Roman imagery into his movement. Let's keep going. We got one page left of this. A day of celebration. The sky smiles in a golden light. What a joyful roar of wings and engines in the blue air. The tricolor flags flutter in the rustling wind. The lively ranks of children pass by, the flags fluttering joyfully. The children sing. They speak of their love for you, Italy. They speak of your glory, and they sing of war and victory. The tricolor flutters lively in the wind. It flutters happily under the shining sky, and the song that speaks to our hearts is joyful. They are your children, Italy, your Balilia. And that's the end of the book. Obviously, there's more pages, but this is all I got. I will say that I don't want this to be a political video, alright? Like, I can think of, in the modern times, books on the left and books on the right that I think would kind of, you could say, well, oh yeah, this is just like that. Like, this is an indoctrination book for children too. But I don't care about that, alright? This is a history channel. This is about history. This is not about politics. But I will say that, any regime, be it fascist, communist, authoritarian, whatever, they want the young ones, the future, to keep doing what they're doing. And so, while yeah, like, this is not cool, this is also very smart, right? This is a smart play if you're a dictator. So if you're a dictator watching this, like, here's what you got to do, all right? I think that's all I got for you today. Once again, I'm Dominic Carnevale. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, you should consider subscribing because it's free and it helps me out. Coming up for some videos, we're going to be doing one on the guerrilla war in East Africa, Italian East Africa, because that's a part of World War II that nobody really talks about. And I'm also going to do one on Crossman Arms, the airgun company, and the Legacy 1000. I got one right over there. Here, check it out. So if you like guns, stay tuned, because we're going to have a lot of guns. All right, that's all I got for you. Ciao.